I'm sitting with Mr. Tim Gothard at the Lanark. Uh, what do you call this building, by the way?
So the property is
Yeah.
Lanark. This building that we're in right now is AWF State Headquarters.
A quick history on this building. It used to be a private residence, right?
So this property actually goes back to 1820. William Wyatt Bibb was the first governor of Alabama,
Right.
and his brother Peyton Bibb built the first rooms in another house that's on this property that was actually called Lanark.
Oh, okay. I was wondering where that name came
And
from.
that kind of stuck, and the property as a whole has been called Lanark ever since
Right.
that time. This house is the former home of the Hill family, Isabel and Wiley Hill, who they were the ones who gifted the property so that we could actually work to develop Alabama Nature Center facility here on the site. This house was built in about 1948. It was their residence. They kind of added to it as they went along.
Yeah.
And in 2002, we moved our state headquarters out here to the Hill home at Lanark.
This is so beautiful out here. And here at Lanark, y'all hold a lot of different events. Let's just talk about what Alabama Wildlife Federation does. It's a huge conservation organization, and I dare say it's the largest one in the state.
Oldest and largest citizens conservation organization in the state.
Yeah, and that's a good distinction. It is completely funded by memberships and donations.
We're 100% private, and I would say that probably 99% of our funding comes from people like you and me, individuals, foundations, corporations that care about the things that we care about. Occasionally, we'll get a grant to do something, maybe help with our education programs or something like that. That may be some federal program dollars, but very, very little of our funding comes from state, federal government.
And I think I failed to say that you're actually the executive director of Alabama Wildlife Federation. So you is the boss. And some of the things, let's just let everybody understand that that money goes for conservation of lands that we, the public, are allowed to use. Can you tell us more about that?
So when you look at the Wildlife Federation, our broad mission is to promote the wise use and responsible stewardship of our wildlife, forest, fish, waters, and soil. Okay?
Right.
We really focus in on three fundamental areas: conservation education, resource stewardship, and then the conservation role of hunting and angling. So the monies that people provide to AWF to do that work is actually what funds our Alabama Nature Center facility here on this property, where we run close to 50,000 people a year through this property and that facility. About 65% of those that come here are for those planned education programs that we do each and every day.
Like field trips and whatnot.
School field trips is a big part of what we do. We also have an outdoor classroom program that we developed, and there are over 390 schools around the state that participate in that program. What we do there, we have people on staff that actually go out and work with the schools to help them design, build, and then utilize outdoor classrooms on school grounds so they can get outside, use outdoor hands-on learning to help teach and learn about math, science, social studies, and language arts. So it accomplishes our mission, while at the same time it helps supports the fundamental goals of the educational process.
And so you're using the outdoors to teach the reading, writing, and arithmetic. It's not just so that I guess that'll help build an understanding and an appreciation of the outdoors and how it relates to life.
And I mean, it's we all get it. When you're learning, when you're doing versus just looking at a book.
Amen.
You learn more, you retain more, and that's the real value of outdoor hands-on, hands-on learning.
Exactly. And when kids learn, I know in my own personal self, there's a bunch of times that none of it made sense until I went and looked at it.
That's exactly right.
So tell us about, and that's your educational.
That's the first priority area. The second area is resource stewardship. If you're going to have abundant wildlife resources in Alabama, you're going to have to work with private landowners
Right.
to provide the habitat that they need, because the majority of the land in Alabama and the southeastern United States is privately owned. So that's a big part of what we do. We have 2 full-time wildlife biologists that all that they do, day in and day out, is work with private landowners all over the state to help them identify what they can do on their properties to have quality wildlife habitat, whether that be deer, turkey, quail, songbirds, bullfrogs, but what they can do to manage their properties in a way that has that quality habitat that will support quality wildlife populations. We started that program in 1999. Claude Jenkins is our senior biologist.
Yeah.
He was my first hire when I got
really?
when I came on board with the Wildlife Federation. But we now have 2 biologists. We've provided on-site assistance to probably around 1,200 landowners and provided management recommendations on right around 700,000 acres
Wow.
of Alabama of land here in Alabama over that 19-year period. It's a big deal. That's where the rubber meets the road in wildlife management. Also, within that resource stewardship arena, one of the things that that we feel very passionate about is actually having our board members serve in roles so that they are part of that ongoing conversation day in and day out about how do we accomplish that? How do we make sure that we are managing our wildlife and other natural resources wisely? We have 3 board members who are on the Forever Wild Board. We have 4 board members that are on the Governor's Conservation Advisory Board. We have 2 board members that are involved with the Water Resources Commission. We've got 1 on the Scenic Byways Council, but that's all part of being involved on a day in and day out basis, being part of the conversations, so that day to day good decisions are made about how we do it, not just sitting back and saying, well, we heard about something going on.
Right, exactly.
And we're for it or we're against it. We just want to be part of that ongoing and be a helpful part of that conversation day in and day out in the process. You mentioned about supporting public lands. In 1999, and not long after I got here, is when AWF purchased 37,000 acres down in the Mobile-Tensaw River Delta. Today it's part of the Upper Delta Wildlife Management Area. And we held that property and then eventually sold that property to Forever Wild. If we hadn't been able to secure that property at that point in time, Alabama may have missed the opportunity to have those lands and add them to our public land base and wildlife management areas in particular. So that's a way that we have been involved with that. But at the same time, having 3 members of our board on the Forever Wild Land Trust Board is another way that we can contribute and help make good decisions about what properties are purchased for, WMAs, state parks, natural areas, and things of that nature. That's a big part of what we do. But in that resource stewardship arena, there's a whole host of things that we have done and continue to do. We've supported turkey research at Auburn University here in the last 2 or 3 years, and have just made another commitment to support another 3-year research project over there. We put in 29 artificial reefs right off of south of Dauphin Island 3 years ago in what was called the AWF Nearshore Artificial Reef Zone.
Yeah, I remember reading about that.
And a lot of people think, oh, you made some great fishing places for us. We did. But those reefs are also part of creating habitat that actually benefits the marine resource. So not only are we providing some great places to fish, but we're actually providing habitat that is beneficial to the fishery.
Right.
Just, I guess it was about 1 year ago, we finished 4 oyster restoration projects down in
cool.
Mobile Bay. The big one was a 77-acre area where we actually put in culch material. That's the material that oysters attach to. And those 4 projects alone represented about $800,000 of private sector money invested in oyster restoration down in Mobile Bay. And we're fixing to, at the end of September, do our 5th project, oyster restoration project down that way. Inshore reefs, we've done inshore artificial reefs in Mobile Bay for decades. And those are the ways that we contribute to proper management of the natural resources that are out there, but also in ways we really like it when there's a way we can do that, but it also enhances the opportunity for recreational outdoorsmen and women to be able to fish those areas, or in the case of the land down in the Mobile Tensaw River Delta, it turned out to be a source of a new wildlife management area.
That was 2. What was the 3rd?
So the 3rd area is the conservation role of hunting and angling. And we actually, you've heard of the Game Watch hotline, where you can call in a poacher. It rings straight to the enforcement division here in Montgomery at Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. AWF pays for that 1-800 line. Okay, and in addition to that, every year we entertain rewards for people who have made the difference. Their tips to conservation enforcement officers made the difference in the enforcement officer being able to arrest and convict poachers. This year we had, in fact, we just did it last month. We had 4 nominations that were submitted from conservation enforcement officers that we reviewed, and we did about $3,000 worth of rewards for those. The year before last, we had 8, and we did a little over $5,000 in rewards. So that is part of our investment in the responsible hunter and angler side of hunting and angling conservation. Yeah, because there are bad apples in the bunch.
Always.
Anywhere.
Yep.
They're not responsible hunters and anglers. They're poachers.
Right. And they need to be weeded out.
It's an opportunity for us to thank those people. It's 100% anonymous. We rely on the enforcement officers to know who that is, share us the information that's necessary. But the rewards are 100%, anonymous in the process.
That's excellent.
The big thing that we do in the conservation role of hunting angling arena is our wild game cook-offs.
Yeah, I love those.
We've been doing wild game cook-offs since about 1996, and in those early days, part of the discussion that led to us doing cook-offs was back at that time there was just a lot of negative information going around about hunters and anglers. It was not properly portraying responsible hunters and anglers the way that you think about it. And so as we were talking about that and some other things, we said, let's try, a wild game cook-off. It'd be an opportunity for our members to get together and interact. A great opportunity for us to show that responsible hunters and anglers properly utilize the game and the fish that they harvest, and it makes great and healthy table fare.
Exactly.
And if we generate a little money to help do some conservation programs, we'd take that as well.
Yeah.
Flash forward to today, and we have 13 wild game cook-offs that we hold around the state. The winners of each one of those cook-offs then come here for what we call the state competition. In fact, we had it 3 weeks ago here at Lanark. And that all the winners compete for a $1,000 first prize, and then most importantly, the bragging rights.
The bragging rights
to Wild Game Cookoff state champion. We'll have 8,000 to 10,000 people around the state attend those every year. It's just great food. It's a great time to get together. But what I'm most proud of is that it portrays responsible hunters and anglers in the way that we know that we are.
Certainly, exactly.
It's not a wasteful process for us.
No, it's not. And we're basically getting back to our roots.
That's exactly right.
We're getting back to our roots.
And another big thing that we do in that arena, and we have it in conjunction, it's the Saturday morning before we have the state finals cook-off on Saturday evening, we have a youth fishing rodeo.
I was about to ask about that. Yeah,
right here it's the pond right in front of where you park.
Yeah.
And this past August, I think we had 184 registered youth. Okay?
Wow.
Now they got moms and dads and grandparents with them and watching them fish, and that's a great opportunity. But that particular fishing opportunity is unique. We let them take 5 fish home apiece if they're going to utilize them for food.
Oh,
okay?
Wow.
So we will, we'll stock the pond in advance. We may put anywhere from 1,200 to 1,800 pounds of catfish in there, and they'll take home 70% of the weight in catfish that we put in there. I like that. That actually shows them doing what we as hunters and anglers do. We harvest within the amounts that scientific management of natural resources tell us can be done. And then we take them and we properly utilize that excess for food. So we're excited to have that opportunity because the vast majority of your youth fishing events are catch and release.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of catch and release fishing here as well with the school groups that come out. And but that's something we're real proud of. And actually, another thing that we have done from that has gotten real popular is that, when I was a kid, that was when, Bassmasters was just starting. And I was a kid, I used to think, man, one day I'm going to be in a tournament like that. I'm going to win me some money. So we actually have what we call the Big Cat Fishing Tournament.
Oh, really?
And we actually can, I think we can take up to about 30 youth anglers. They pay an entry fee, just like a fishing tournament is in real life. Yeah. Then they fish, and then we have payouts on the hour, who had the biggest fish for that hour, who had the biggest fish for the next hour, and then who had the biggest fish overall or the biggest stringer of fish. It gives them an opportunity to experience in a fun way.
Yeah.
What professional fishing tournaments are like in terms of where you pay your fees and you're competing against somebody else, but then winners get something in the process, and they love it. I tell people all the time, I can be in my office upstairs and I can tell you when somebody catches a big fish in the catfish pond.
Oh,
I can hear all the kids screaming and hollering and having a good time.
You remember in 2018 when we did Big Daddy Show from the back porch of this building?
That's right.
It was during the youth fishing rodeo.
You're exactly right. That's exactly right.
And we were hearing exactly what you were talking about.
Right.
And Big Daddy even will make a mention of it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But
I remember that like it was yesterday. Yeah. But you could hear those kids. They love it. They get excited. And then you've just developed a responsible angler or a responsible outdoorsman or woman.
That's exactly
for life.
That's right.
And
I think the real take home message to me is when you consider all of these things that the Wildlife Federation does. We have a nature center with 7 or 8 employees that are leading educational field trips day in and day out, 365 days a year. We have 4 people working with the 392 schools around the state, to hear about, turkey research and oyster restoration projects and artificial reefs and assisting landowners. The reason we can do that is because people around this state who are passionate about the outdoors, the way that you and I are, want to invest in AWF so that type of work can be done. I tell people all the time, when you come, I'll ask people sometime, who is the AWF? Well, if they've been to a cook-off, That's what they think. Well, it's
Yeah.
all of us. It's all of us that was at that
That's
cook-off. It's
right.
all these people I know from my home, from my hometown community. Those are the people that are giving AWF the ability to do all of those things. So we just have an outstanding team of people from all over this state who care about these things and want to invest in making them better through AWF.
How do you invest in AWF? How do you become a member? How do you get involved? What can we do?
So look, base membership in the Wildlife Federation is $35 a year. You get our quarterly magazine.
Mm-hmm.
You can go online and just hit the join today button, and you can join that way. When you purchase a ticket to our Wild Game Cookoff, our tickets to Wild Game Cookoffs are tickets that allow 2 people to get in.
Right.
One of the 2, whoever's on the bottom of the stub, they get a 1-year membership in the Wildlife Federation. So those are the ways that a lot of people, join at the base membership level. But I'll tell you, one of the things that I see most often is that people see what we do.
Right.
They hear or read about, or one of our members tells somebody who's not a member about the projects that we do or the nature center that we operate. And that inspires people to say, I want to be a part of that. I want to help that stuff take place. Sometimes it may be, just $35.
Yeah.
Other times it may be somebody that says, no, I want to give thousands of dollars because I want you to be able to do and accomplish more in the process. But it's nothing is more valuable than what our members tell their network of friends and family about what we do, the quality of the work that we do, and that they can be a part of it and help more of that take place.
And I think as we wrap, one of the I guess the ways to wrap it is AWF is really mostly about education, isn't it? Am I understanding right?
Well, I will say this: education has been a part of our mission since we were founded in 1935. It is one of our priority areas. But don't forget that resource stewardship and managing the resource side of the equation.
Yeah. But that's a big part of education.
It as well. Look, everything has an educational element.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything that we do, what you do, just covering, things like AWF and other things that you can. When you tell that story, that's education in and of itself.
It was education for me because I'm learning more about AWF that I didn't realize. Yeah. And all the time I've been around it, I still didn't realize some of the things that you did.
Yeah.
So and that's why I wanted to do this, to let everybody know.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I have to remind myself of all the different things that we have done and are doing, because it is significant, and all I can do is really thank all of the people who are part of our organization and invest in what we do, because without that, I wouldn't have this story to tell about the things that AWF has been able to do for, wildlife, forest, waters, and soils here in the state of Alabama. We've been blessed, very blessed.
Well, I want to thank you.
Thank you, my friend,
for spending the time with me, because I know you're busy, and thank you for what the AWF does. And I guess we'll see you again soon. And I do want to tell everybody here too that I'm going to come back and do more on the Nature Center. I wanted to talk more about that here today, but then it hit me on the way over. That's too big to be a little small part of.
That's right.
And actually, there's a lot of aspects of this that are too big for this, but hopefully we covered it well enough. And then we're going to delve into some other details later on. But I definitely want to get more on that Nature Center soon, because I think that is a huge, interesting thing that a lot of people ought to know more about.
That's right. Call me in the fall or spring, and we'll line you up with days when the kids are running out our ears here. Those are great days.
That'll be fun. Thank you, sir.
Right. Thank you.
See you later. Thanks for joining us.